What's going on, you guys? Welcome back to hashtag AskGSM here today for April 12th, 2017, episode 176. I'm Graham GSM Matthews. Hope you guys are doing well. And how can you not be excited right now coming off the Superstar Shakeup? Now, I know people have mixed emotions, whether SmackDown got the better of Raw got the better of SmackDown, blah, 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 blah. I mean, that's the most exciting part about these drafts, these shakeups, these show switches, moves, and all this other shit, is that we can debate which show got the better brand. And in all honesty, I think both brands are winners in this. I just got finished writing an article this morning for Bleacher Report. You can check it out with my official decision, who got the better of the Superstar Shakeup, Raw or SmackDown. I gave the slight edge to SmackDown, and I'll talk about that momentarily. I might as well just say it now, but we have fucking AJ Styles, Shinsuke Nakamura, Randy Orton, John Cena, Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, and all these other great talents, Baron Corbin on SmackDown Live. And Raw ain't too shabby either. You got Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns, Finn Balor, Chris Jericho while he's still around for the next couple of weeks, and all these other great names. On the heel side, you have Bray Wyatt going over. You have The Miz. You have Dean Ambrose over there now. Brock Lesnar. A lot of top-tier names on Monday Night Raw at the moment. Cesaro, the Hardy Boys, the Revival. And SmackDown has the New Day now. They have Charlotte. Raw has Alexa Bliss, Mickie James, Sasha Banks, Bayley. I can go on and on and on. For me, and I was thinking about this last night, so I went to SmackDown Live in Boston, which was a great time, really, really fun show. Overall, just really happy with the roster switches. I think the shakeup could not have come at a better time. I said originally a couple weeks ago when you guys asked me when should it happen, I said the summer, but I think right now is as appropriate of a time as ever. If only just to get rid of the fucking Orton and Wyatt feud. I think that might be the biggest takeaway of the fucking of the roster shakeup is getting away from that awful Orton Wyatt feud. But anyway. I grew up with the brand split. Having you guys know, I started watching exactly 9 years ago from this Friday, to be quite exact. 9 years ago from April 14th, 2017. It was April 14th, 2008. So 9 years ago, we were still in the middle of a brand split. Now, of course, that was when the rosters really meant nothing, and I think the brand split was at its peak from 02 to 05, and then from there it kind of went downhill. But I love stuff like this. I love the draft shows. Those were my favorite shows kind of growing up as a wrestling fan. So being in attendance for SmackDown last night, when Owens showed up, when Zayn showed up, when Charlotte showed up, when the promo for New Day aired and all this other stuff, I was super excited. That's always been something for me to go to that I've always really wanted to attend, is a draft after WrestleMania. Now I've kind of done both in a matter of 2 weeks, which is funny. So speaking of SmackDown Live, in being there last night after I came back, I was decompressing, uploading the videos and the pictures, and I have yet to write my SmackDown/205 Live review. That was my first 205 Live show. A portion of people left, but it was still a good show. I had to leave early because I had to catch a train around 10:50, so I missed the second half of the main event, but I watched it on my phone as we were leaving the train station in Boston. But anyway, the point I was trying to make was that when I got back late last night around like midnight or so, I honestly completely forgot to put up the question for hashtag on Twitter and on Facebook and stuff. And that's usually how people remember to send in questions, is when I put out the tweet. Then we get a whole fucking boatload of questions from Twitter. I mean, you guys on YouTube, Brandon, all you other guys, Emmanuel, Prince5835, you guys send in questions regardless. So I appreciate that. So we'll talk more about those questions today. Than the Twitter questions. I only have one Twitter question, no Facebook questions. So that's kind of the bad news. The good news is that I can spend more time answering your questions. I don't have class for another half hour or so, so we don't have to spend an hour on each question, but I can spend more time on it than usual. That also being said, and I also have a question from RJ I'll answer shortly as well, via text. Very rare that happens. But I'll also say this too. What was I going to say with the YouTube questions? Oh, yeah, the fact that I was going to, the point I was trying to make was that I have not really read many of your questions. I'm reading them for the first time right now. I have not even made the document. It's very rare that happens, but when I'm in a rush, in the past couple of days have been pretty busy with school stuff, freelance stuff, whatever, Bleacher Report stuff, so it's been pretty packed. But that being said, I will answer your questions, so with a fresh set of eyes. I have not thought about any of these questions, for better or for worse, so we'll talk about that right now. But anyway, we'll start with the first question. And even before we do that, if you want to send in a question, tweet me on the Twitter machine at WrestleRant with the hashtag AskGSM. Find me on Facebook and send me a question there on the post I usually put up on Tuesdays. I promise I usually do. Last night I completely forgot being at SmackDown. But yeah, you can put a question on the post. I usually put up on Tuesday nights or on the wall itself at facebook.com/graham.gsm.matthews, or leave a comment on this very video. I'll include it in next week's edition. So, like I said earlier, first question from RJ, sending it via text this morning, which is pretty cool. But his question was, because it was over 140 characters, is it hypocritical for fans to now boo JBL after the alleged Ranallo bullying when the guy has been accused of bullying all the way back to 2006 with Joey Styles? But now, since it's Mauro Ranallo, it's a big deal. The thing with this incident in particular, it's not that people let JBL off the hook. I think people have always kind of been aware that JBL's a fucking bully. I think he rips people more than just about anyone. And I honestly think there's a distinct difference between bullying and ribbing people. When I heard he strong-armed Mauro, according to a colleague of Mauro Ranallo who tweeted on Twitter late last night, he strong-armed Mauro Ranallo. What that means, I have no idea. If it was just the bring it to the table thing, where he called him out on winning the award for the Observer newsletter or whatever a couple weeks ago, that would be silly. But I assume there's more to this than we know. According to Dave Meltzer, that's the case. You don't have to believe one source, but it seems like there's more to the story than what we've been seeing so far. And, JBL fucking blocked Mauro Ranallo on Twitter like a couple of months ago. That was a whole big news story. No one gave a shit about it then. JBL has always been a grade A asshole in real life. From what I've never met the guy. I mean, I guess I can't really say that, but from all accounts, from people who have worked with him, say that he is not, by and large, not the nicest guy to be working with, either on TV. I know he's a heel, but you can't just chalk it up to him being a heel. If he's fucking bullying you, then there's a problem with that. And, action should be taken. With Mauro Ranallo, again, it's not that people completely forgot about the Joey Styles incident. He's been bullying people for years. He's been ribbing people for years. The Mauro Ranallo thing was just the whole reason this whole story, broke out and got as big as it has been in recent days. And I'll talk about the reaction to that last night at SmackDown in Boston, which was pretty eye-opening, I guess would be the right term to use. But with Mauro, the guy suffers from depression. He has bipolar disorder, reportedly. I think he has said that himself in various different articles and stuff in the past. Joey Styles didn't have that. I'm not saying that Mauro Ranallo is a special case, but because of the bullying, he's now leaving WWE. Like, Joey Styles did not leave WWE for another fucking decade. He was on the WWE.com website. He was on ECW. He was largely away from JBL after their whole thing, over 10 years ago. Mauro, I think, whatever happened was so bad that apparently his decision is to not come back. If it was WWE saying we're firing you or we're letting you go, that's a problem. And that WWE would not look good in that situation. They're still not looking good now for keeping JBL on the air. And as I said last night at SmackDown, even before the show went live, even before we went on the air, there were loud, "We want Mauro" chants, "Fire Bradshaw," Bradshaw sucks chant in the form of New Day rocks. A lot of chants towards JBL. I literally just put up the video a couple hours ago here on the channel, so I haven't seen it yet. And I also had it on Twitter last night, and I saw other people tweeting it too, so it's not exactly news. But I put up the video here on the channel a couple of hours ago of the fan that approached ringside, or the commentary table. He did not jump the fucking barricade. He was just near the barricade with a very large sign that said, "JBL bullied me," which got a huge pop from the crowd because people saw it. And almost instantly, the security came over and not only took the sign. He was holding the sign as he was walking out, but I assume they took the sign and they escorted him out of the arena. Thankfully, it was the main event. He missed the rest of the main event, which was great, but he didn't do it at the start of the show, so he didn't miss the rest of the show. He only really missed the second half of the main event in the fucking 205 Live, so I'm sure he got his money's worth. So I'm sure he's doing okay, but I thought that was pretty funny. But this, I don't think will die down anytime soon. I know Sports Illustrated picked up on it, Huffington Post, ESPN won't pick up on it, but I know a lot of other websites have. So the only real difference here is that Mauro is suffering from depression, bipolar disorder. To bully anyone, period, is fucking trash. Like JBL, I think a lot of people already knew going into this, the guy's an asshole. But he wasn't bothering people that had like a disorder. And now that he's doing it tomorrow, that's even more fucked up. And that should be rectified. So hopefully some action is taken. I doubt that it will, but hopefully some action is taken at some point very, very soon. I got to make a quick note here. I know Emmanuel left a comment in regards to a question I made or answered last week. He said he left a comment on this last week's video in regards to a question I answered incorrectly in that video. He said, I think I misinterpreted one of Brandon's questions when I talked about who should have been Undertaker's opponents for WrestleMania 32 and 33. And I think the question that he asked instead was, I fucked up the wording, so I apologize, but he was referring to who Undertaker should have faced at WrestleMania 19 and WrestleMania 22 instead of A-Train, Show, and Mark Henry. So I'll go back and answer that right now. I apologize, Brandon, for answering your question incorrectly, but who should Undertaker have faced at 22 and 19? So 19 was 03. The handicap match was trash. I mean, Big Show 1-on-1 would have been okay. A-Train was never that great. Big Show 1-on-1 would have been fine. I can't remember exactly how good their No Way Out match was from the month prior. So I'd have to go back and watch. I know I watched it about a year ago. I haven't seen it since, though. Show Taker 1-on-1 would not have been great, but I'm trying to think who else they could have paired him with, because Taker by that point had already feuded with Brock. Brock was in the main event. Kurt Angle was in the main event with Brock, so that wasn't going to happen. Who else was on the SmackDown roster? John Cena just debuted, like less than a year earlier, so that wasn't happening. And then all the other guys, Edge got hurt. And Eddie was in the title match the following year. Was Eddie? I don't even think Eddie was there at 19, was he? I don't remember. I don't know. There just was not a very wide... I mean, SmackDown at that point was great. I'm just trying to think of who else could have been realistically positioned as a threat to Undertaker at WrestleMania. Benoit, maybe? I don't even know. Was Benoit hurt at that point? I'm pretty sure he was around. I don't think Benoit was hurt at that point. I'm not exactly sure. I think Big Show 1-on-1 would have been better than what we got in the fucking handicap match, which I know was supposed to be a tag team match. That would have been trash too if Nathan didn't get hurt, if they didn't pull him from the match, because he sucked anyway. For 19, I think Big Show 1-on-1 would have been not okay, but it would have been better than what we got. For 22, Kurt Angle. I mean, that's an easy one. You could have just done Orton, Rey Mysterio 1-on-1. The match would not have been the same without Angle in it. But the match got 8 minutes anyway. That triple threat world title match, which is a great match for a 10-minute world title match, but it wasn't the main event. It should have been the main event. It wasn't. Ray and Orton, you could have given the belt to Orton, I know, and instead of Angle and brought... I mean, I don't know. It's hard to say. I mean, maybe you could have Angle drop the belt and No Way Out to Orton, or just not have Angle win the belt to begin with and just come over to SmackDown before WrestleMania. And then just do Taker Angle 1-on-1. I'm not saying Angle had to win. I know Taker wanted Angle to win and put him over. That didn't happen. Angle Taker should have happened at WrestleMania. Orton and Ray 1-on-1 would have been fine. So that's how I would have changed those WrestleMania matches. Prince 5835, a couple questions here. First one being, if the Hardys do officially become broken, do you think it will be as good as it was in TNA? Since Rebby, Maxwell, Senor Benjamin, and Vanguard 1 also play a big part in the broken gimmick, what can WWE do without them? The Rebby and Maxwell, Benjamin, Vanguard 1, I think they might be able to pull off. I don't really think they have any interest in bringing in, Matt's kid or Rebby, especially with how she's, been on Twitter recently. I don't think they want to piss her off and then have her go off on a rant. I don't think she's the most professional person. I think Rebby's a great person, but she's not the most professional when it comes to handling business. I mean, I think her fuck the owl chants the tweets were pretty great, but that's not the right, best way to handle business. At any rate, they're not going to bring in her or Benjamin, I wouldn't think, or the kid, or Maxwell. But Vanguard 1, I mean, it's just a fucking, one of those things, one of the hover bots, whatever. I'm fucking up, what are they called? My roommate has one too, I don't know. But anyway, I guess they could do that if they wanted to. The Broken Matt character is just entertaining in and of itself. I mean, those are additional elements that made the Broken Universe great. But they weren't like the be-all, end-all of Broken Matt Hardy. Broken Matt Hardy can still be entertaining without without that other stuff. As long as he has the accent and the overall look of Broken Matt, he'll be just fine. With how they'll handle it, if it'll be as good as it was in TNA, as long as WWE doesn't water it down, that's my only criticism, my only fear when it comes to Broken Matt and the Broken Hardys. I doubt Jeff Hardy will go back to being Brother Nero. Again, not necessary that he has to, because Jeff Hardy's fucking Jeff Hardy. Kids will love Jeff Hardy no matter what, so that doesn't really bother me. But Broken Matt is what we should see in WWE at some point. And the thing is that WWE, they can't all of a sudden acknowledge, like, the canon, so to speak, of Broken Matt from TNA. Because they have never once acknowledged, on TV anyway, I know they've done it in network specials and DVDs. By and large, TNA is largely ignored by WWE. Anything that happens in TNA has never happened in WWE. Does not exist, from what it seems anyway. So that being said, they're going to have to come up with an entire new story for Broken Matt. But if anyone can do it, it's Matt Hardy. He's one of the most creative and original people in wrestling today. So I'm sure that he can get it done if he wanted to. So it'll just take time. I don't know what the current status is of the lawsuit with Impact. I've heard it's over. I've heard it's ongoing. I assume it's still ongoing. I think if it was over, I think we would have heard something from the Hardy family. So I think as of right now, it's still ongoing. But that being said, I think once it's cleared up, WWE would be dumb not to do anything with the Broken Hardys. Just considering the money that can, or at least Broken Matt, with the money that could be made off Broken Matt Hardy and the merchandise and all that other stuff. I mean, the delete chants at WrestleMania were deafening. And you can still hear them in crowds today on SmackDown, at Raw. So I think they'd be dumb not to kind of tap into that broken universe once it becomes available to WWE down the line. Second question of his, would you wanted Braun Strowman or Finn Balor to challenge Lesnar for the title? Or would you want? Between the two, probably Strowman. Balor Lesnar would be cool, but I think at this point, Balor... First of all, I heard he got hurt on Raw, which fucking sucks. Fuck you, Jinder Mahal. I know I'm hypocritical in saying, fire Jinder, but not Seth Rollins for also injuring Finn Balor about a year ago. But I know I'm completely biased. I just do not like Jinder. He actually came up pretty well in Talking Smack last night. I will say that, but I'm completely biased in saying I just do not like Jinder Mahal at all. I don't even know why they brought him back. I'm just not a fan of Jinder Mahal. But that being said, down the line, Balor Lesnar would be cool. But I think with the way that Lesnar has been built up right now, Balor would not be that much of a threat. Like, I feel like he would get tossed around. Like, he would not be an equal to Brock Lesnar. If Brock Lesnar can dominate Goldberg at WrestleMania by and large, then Balor will not be a threat to Brock Lesnar at this point in time. Strowman, considering his size, I know he's come off like a loser recently, but that angle on Raw this week was glorious. I thought that was fucking awesome. I mean, as dumb as some parts looked with, pushing him off the ramp or whatever it was on the stretcher, obviously it was a body double, but, the visual itself was cool, and it made Strowman look like a beast. So, yeah, Strowman and Lesnar, I think, is the bigger money match right now for Brock Lesnar. But Balor and Lesnar down the line wouldn't be bad. But I think Lesnar and Strowman is where they're heading with this whole, what they did last week and what they did on Raw this week. Strowman has got to beat Roman at Payback. I assume they're going to face off in a number one contenders match. Strowman's got to win. And then he's got to go on to maybe not beat Brock, but face him for the title. Hopefully at SummerSlam. So that's my hope. And his third question here. Have you heard about the That's So Raven spin-off sequel coming this fall? I did hear about that a while ago. Love That's So Raven. I think I talked about that a week ago when Prince5835 asked me about whether I'm a Nickelodeon or Disney Channel guy. I think I mentioned That's So Raven as one of my shows that I enjoyed. But, yeah, no, I did hear about the spin-off. It doesn't surprise me. Disney, and it's not I don't even know if it's a case of me just getting older, but Disney's shows nowadays fucking suck. They are awful. Dog with a Blog? That sounds like a show that you would hear about in Drake and Josh, like that they would make fun of because it's so dumb. But it's an actual thing, apparently. I've never seen a single episode. Maybe that's me just judging a show by its title. But I've seen clips of these shows, and they just look like complete trash. They look like garbage compared to the days of old with Sweet Life of Zack and Cody and That's So Raven. And hell, you know what? Even Hannah Montana was a decent show. That was a better show than whatever the fuck we have today. I know people are very split on Miley Cyrus, but the Hannah Montana show was not bad. I know you're going to take that quote and run with it, but just saying. The That's So Raven spinoff, again, not surprising at all. I mean, the Girl Meets World show, I saw a lot of outrage over that. The fact they have all these other shitty shows and they'll cancel the one show that it's actually decent from what I've heard. And I've seen some episodes, and it's not a bad show. That was the one spinoff I thought was cool because they kind of brought back characters from the original. They might do the same with That's So Raven. I know I'm talking about like Disney shows on a wrestling podcast show, whatever, but I enjoyed your question. I thought it was interesting. I guess we'll see what they do with it. I might catch the first episode, but it's like 10 years too late. That's So Raven ended 10 years ago. 10 fucking years ago. And now they're just bringing it back because Raven Simone's got nothing going on. Disney Channel's dying a death. I don't know about ratings-wise. They're like the WWE. If the ratings go down, Disney Channel's not going to go away. They're a monopoly when it comes to kid shows and shit like that. Disney Channel will never die. But the quality could always decrease. They're like the WWE in that sense. And just not that interested. I'd rather see other shows brought back before That's So Raven because I feel like that ship has sailed. Like when they did the whole spinoff for Sweet Life of Zack and Cody, Sweet Life on Deck, they did it right after the original show ended, which is what they needed to do. That's So Raven 10 years later, tapping into the audience of like where I was from, that era that I kind of started growing up watching Disney Channel, trying to bring those viewers back. It's like bringing back Goldberg for WWE and WWE's desperate attempt to get back those WCW fans. It's not going to work. They might watch for one night or two, but they're not going to become full-fledged, fans of the product again. I might check out an episode of That's So Raven, of whatever the spinoff is, but I'm not going to watch the whole show. I think they did do a spinoff. They did the Corey in the House thing, which did not last long at all, by the way. It wasn't that bad of a show, but it was a complete failure compared to That's So Raven. But same thing with like the whole Goldberg thing. Old fans might tune in for a night, but beyond that, they're not going to stick around and watch Raw and SmackDown and become full-fledged fans again, more often than not. Captain Sunshine's got a couple questions here. First one being, are Mojo Rawley and Rob Gronkowski the new Macho Man and Miss Elizabeth? It seems like it. Gronk got easily the biggest pop of anyone last night in Boston. I mean, obviously, they're in fucking Boston. He's a Patriot. But, Gronk has made more appearances than any other celebrity in recent memory. Put him in the fucking WWE Hall of Fame. I don't know why they shouldn't at this point. Maybe next year. Maybe when they come back to the Northeast for WrestleMania, they could put him in the Hall of Fame. But, Mojo and Rob, they got that, Mojo and Gronk, they got that bromance going. So they are the bromance version of Macho Man and Miss Elizabeth, according to you, which is not a bad comparison at all. Is Sami Zayn ever going to leave Kevin Owens alone? I don't think so. When we say fight forever, when we chant fight forever at Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, I think a lot of people mean it. I was hoping they would be split up in the draft, in the shakeup, whatever. And they weren't, but at least they're not both staying on Raw. Like, that would have been a fucking problem. If Sami Zayn did not get drafted and both he and Owens were on Raw, that would have been a problem. But at least they're both on SmackDown. They can become top stars. I mean, I know Owens was champion for fucking 6-7 months on Raw as the Universal Champion, but was he really, like, that big of a star? No, he wasn't. He was overshadowed by Roman Reigns, by Seth Rollins, by the fucking Authority. So hopefully on SmackDown that won't be a problem. And Sammy, I think him going to SmackDown needed to happen. That's not even worth debating. I mean, that needed to happen. And at least now, Owens and Zayn, they can feud on SmackDown at some point. Not anytime soon, hopefully, but down the road, they can feud on SmackDown, hopefully over a world title. Maybe it culminates in a WWE title Owens versus Zayn match at WrestleMania 34. Take my money. Question 3. Is Braun Strowman the biggest babyface on the roster right now? I would argue yes. The thank you Strowman one more time chants on Raw this week were amazing. Again, I cannot speak any more highly of that segment on Raw that week. On Raw this week, I thought it was just so well done. Strowman came off like a beast, but it doesn't matter who you have attack Roman Reigns; they will get cheered. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether it's Strowman or Triple H. It doesn't matter if it's fucking Yoshitatsu. They will cheer that person no matter what, because people just really hate Roman Reigns. And Long Island is no smarky city. So the fact that we're chanting for Strowman and going crazy for Strowman, should be an indicator that's what WWE should expect going forward. But at least they're aware of the hatred for Roman Reigns. Otherwise, they would not have done what they did this week or last week. And final few questions here. A couple from YouTube from Brandon, and then we got one from Twitter, like I said. So Brandon's question was, he said, let's see what he said here. Over the next few weeks, I will be asking questions regarding topics related to WrestleMania that many fans feel a certain way about, and I feel the opposite. That being said, I only have one question this week because it is a long one. Okay, so here it is. I know a lot of people don't agree with everyone being on the WrestleMania card, and that is what is contributing to making the show so long, but I strongly disagree, and here is why. At the end of the day, the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal adds about another 20 to 25 minutes of showtime. These wrestlers are on the road 200 days, over 200 days a year, sacrificing their bodies, being away from their families, and giving pretty much their entire existence to work such a demanding job. Those lower guys on the card, 9 times out of 10, are probably at least decent workers, but they are not over. Some of this is on them, but most of it, if it is because of WWE's bad booking and lack of creative storytelling. I believe the least they can do for these people is give them a WrestleMania payday and a spot on the greatest show of the year. Should WWE really deny 30 to 40 people on their roster all that money in the stage they worked their entire careers to be on, because it was going to tire fans out because they were going to have to watch an extra hour of programming? That doesn't seem right to me. Also, if they actually did this, I think fans would just start complaining about who wasn't on the show even more. Imagine the complaints of the Usos, American Alpha, Sami Zayn, Braun Strowman, Nia Jax, etc. were not on the show at all. What are your thoughts? First of all, I don't think people would be complaining if Nia Jax was not on the show. I don't think people at all would be complaining that Nia was not at WrestleMania. But I get your point. So here's my mentality. I do disagree with what you're saying. And I think a lot of people would disagree, which is why you said it. But the reason being here is that I feel like it's the old mentality that everyone gets a trophy. And it's not the whole PC world bullshit. That's not it at all. I mean, there are certain aspects of today's society that are PC, but that's a different discussion for a different day. What I'm saying here is that, yes, everyone is on the road 300 days a year, 200 days a year, whatever it might be. They're working crazy hours, the most physically demanding job you will ever have. I completely understand that. But there are people that are busting their ass way more than others. Prime example, let's go with Dean Ambrose, a guy who never gets hurt. I don't know if he's been hurt once in the 5 years he's been in the main roster. Day in, day out, working live events, TV, doing promotional appearances, signings, charities, you name it, he does it. He's the mechanic, as he calls himself, on Talking Smack, or used to call himself on Talking Smack, now that he's on Raw. That said, you will have people that have come out and said, maybe not him himself, but other people have said, guys like JTG, who fucking hide in the back for a paycheck. You know, they just hide in the back because they don't want to be called for a Superstars taping, for a main event taping. Yet they end up at WrestleMania in the same match as a Sami Zayn, a guy who's busting his ass, on the same pre-show as Dean Ambrose, who's been busting his ass 10 times more than that guy. That, to me, is foolish. I mean, again, you go back to the ever-used example of the Little League baseball team. Everyone on that team is busting their ass. But there are some people that are just better than others. I mean, again, that's different because that has to do with physical skill. And in WWE, it's a matter whether management likes you or not, by and large. Sami Zayn, just because he's in the kickoff show, doesn't mean he sucks. Just because he's in the Battle Royal doesn't mean he's not good. It's because the WWE right now doesn't have anything for him. I just don't agree with the whole mentality that everyone needs to get a trophy. I know it's a physically demanding job, but you can give people WrestleMania paydays in other ways. You can have them, you know, it should be about the culmination of how great of a year you've had. A guy like the guys like the Shining Stars, they have done nothing in the past year. Why should they be on the same level as a Sami Zayn? They probably got the same amount of a paycheck as Sami Zayn. Just because Sami Zayn gets a bigger reaction doesn't mean he got any higher of a paycheck. They were in the same match. That, to me, doesn't feel right. He is a level higher than those guys. And yeah, American Alpha, the Usos, whatever. I mean, the Battle Royal is not so much the issue. Like, the Battle Royal is whatever. I mean, you put people in the Battle Royal, who gives a fuck? I'm talking about the multi-women matches, the multi-ladder matches. We need to get everyone on the card like WrestleMania 32. I know people will disagree with me, but I love Zack Ryder, but let's be real here. Zack Ryder, Sin Cara, Stardust being in that ladder match, although it was a great match, was completely unnecessary. It should have been Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn one-on-one. Throw the other guys in the Battle Royal. Like, Owens and Zayn were the real MVPs of WWE and NXT programming for the past year. Not fucking Zack Ryder, not fucking Sin Cara, not fucking Stardust. It was those two guys. They deserved that WrestleMania payday. But because they worked harder or They got more opportunities. They were better than the other three guys I mentioned, Stardust, Ryder, and Sin Cara. They got the same payday as the other guys. I feel like it'd be a lot better. It should not be that everyone gets $1. It should be either that you get nothing or you get a lot of money because you busted your ass and you were the MVP of WWE programming over the past year. Everyone getting $1 does no one any justice whatsoever. So again, the Battle Royal I'm fine with. I'm not saying they should get rid of the Battle Royal. They've been doing this for years, people. The Battle Royal is not a new thing. Yes, the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal title is new, but they've been doing Battle Royals on the WrestleMania pre-shows, kickoff, dark match, whatever, literally for like the past 10, 15 years. Nothing has changed. Now it's just glorified with Andre the Giant Memorial, with the Andre the Giant Memorial title. But the multi-man matches need to stop. They didn't do as many on the main card this year. I thought the main card was great. There were just a lot of matches, and the fact we have a brand split and affording more people opportunities I thought was fine. But when you have like 7 women in the SmackDown Women's title match, that's not necessary. It should have been Alexa versus Mickey and maybe versus Becky. That was the only, or Naomi too. Like Carmella, come on. I mean, she's good, but really, like Natalya, they haven't done anything. They haven't done nearly as much as the other women I mentioned. So that's my problem with the whole WrestleMania and get everyone on the card mentality. Final question here from Twitter at Mr. Singleton 16. Do you think Seth Rollins should have been traded to SmackDown so he could have finally gotten away from the Authority? I mean, that was one thing I was thinking about, but I think he's fine on Raw. I think he would have been a great pick for SmackDown, but then you would have had to move Samoa Joe too. You know, I mean, we've seen Rollins and Owens a million times. I don't want him on the same show as Rollins, or on the same show as Owens. So that wasn't going to work. Him and AJ would have been cool, but on Raw, let's look at it. We have Joe, which is a fresh feud. They have unfinished business. That's one thing. Him and Jericho, they've already kind of done a million times, but Jericho's leaving anyway. Him and Lesnar, if they want to go back to that well, that would be cool. Him and Miz, fresh feud. You have a Shield reunion at some point. Maybe a heel Ambrose versus a face Rollins would be pretty cool. I know a match we've seen a million times, but you flip the roles, it's 10 times fresher. So, I mean, Rollins on Raw is not the worst thing, so it wasn't really that big of a deal. Yes, him going to SmackDown would have been cool, but SmackDown made out just fine. Like, I don't want it. They have a lot of baby faces on SmackDown right now. You have Zayn, Cena when he comes back, Randy Orton. You have, who else did they get? They have Cena, Orton, Zayn, Styles apparently turned. You have Luke Harper. There's a lot of baby faces on SmackDown. Sami Zayn. So I don't think adding Seth Rollins or even turning him heel at that point would have been just dumb. You know, this early in the game would have been really stupid. So him on Raw, he could be a top level babyface with Roman Reigns and with Finn Balor. I'm totally fine with that. And Dean Ambrose will eventually rise up as well, and he's kind of a mid-carder anyway. So Rollins on Raw is not the worst thing. And that does it, guys, for hashtag AskGSM here today for April 12th, 2017, episode 176. Again, I apologize for the short length, but I forgot to put out the tweet last night in the Facebook post, so I did not get a ton of questions. But next week we will. I will not forget about it next week, I promise. And next week we hopefully will be back to normal with a longer episode for you guys. But hopefully, with those of you that did send in questions, primarily from YouTube, hopefully this helped, and I was able to give your questions more time and not rush through them per usual. But that being said, if you want to send in a question, you could do so by tweeting me on the Twitter machine at any time between now and next Wednesday. I usually cut off the deadline. I usually record these videos around 1 on Wednesday. So if you want your question in, send it in to be safe before 11 a.m. Eastern time on Wednesdays, just to be safe. But anyway, if you want to send in a question, as I said, tweet me on the Twitter machine at WrestleRan on Twitter with the hashtag AskGSM. Find me on Facebook at facebook.com/Graham.Matthews. Leave a comment on the post I usually put up on Tuesday nights, if not the wall itself. And that being said, also be sure to leave a comment on this very video. I'll be sure to include your question in next week's edition. So again, guys, I'm super stoked about the Superstar Shakeup. I think it's been very beneficial to both brands, both Raw and SmackDown Live. So I'm looking forward to Payback, what's coming forward. In terms of me, I got no shows coming up in the foreseeable future. Nothing for the rest of the month or the month of May. I'm taking a bit of a break after WrestleMania weekend and SmackDown Live last night. So I'll be just relaxing for the foreseeable future. But with all that being said, guys, have an amazing rest of your week. I'm Graham GSM Matthews, and I'll catch you guys down the road.